a fairy tale outcome to the 1981 Grand National.
Can he hang on? He's clinging on. Best mate bounding away.
You've never heard cheers like this at Cheltenham. The crowd going absolutely wild.
Mr. Brack strikes the front with just his favourite hill to climb.
This is the champion. This is the best we've seen for a long time. John O'Neill punches the air as the mare has made tough history here at Cheltenham.
You'd have to travel 1,000,000 miles to see a better race.
History is made with the Cheltenham National Hunt Festival. Amazing 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. It's a photo between Leitner and Mansfield. I wouldn't like to call that one. It's a stop and a tremendous reception. You've never heard one like it at Liverpool.
Welcome to 25 of the greatest ever national hunt races. To get to our top 25, we asked various racing experts, commentators, journalists, trainers and breeders to select their top 10 from a list of 50 great jump races. Then we added up all the votes, awarding 12 points for a top selection, 10 for a second, 8 for third and so on. That's how we came up with our final 25. It was simple in theory, and so it proved in practice. There are, though, a few surprises amongst those who didn't make the cut. No Hennessy from 1963 when Millhouse beat Arkle, nor one of the greatest ever national finishes when J. Trump beat Freddie in 1965. More recently, one man's victory in the 1998 Queen Mother Champion Chase didn't get enough votes. Nor did last year's emotional Grand National, won by Amberley House and trained, of course, by Ginger McCain. So, which races did make the top 25? We're here at Sandown, one of Britain's premier jump courses, to decide. And in 25th spot, it's Desert Orchid and the 1991 Agfa Diamond Chase.
Still Desert Orchid, but Nick the Brief hasn't been shaken off yet. And now
This won't be the last time we see Desi in our top 25, but this was his last career win, and it was a typically gutsy Desi performance. By 1991, he was in his 12th year and had to concede a stone to his 3 rivals.
And on Nick the Brief, Robbie Supple has the cheek to look round and see what's going on. He's got Desert Orchid on his inside, and you can see that Kildemo is now going to come up on the outside to make his challenge. They quicken up now down towards the third from home, coming towards the pond fence. Dunwoody and Supple yet to really make their move as they come to it. On the inside, Desert Orchid up the centre, Nick the Brief. Kildemo trying to get on terms on the outside. But there's a stone and a half between these two as they come now towards the final fence. And the 3 of them are in line. 2 from home, Desert Orchid, Nick the Brief and Kildemo in the air together. Now they come towards the last fence, and Desert Orchid just loses the lead now. Nick the Brief just gets his head in front. Kildemo's only half a length behind them. A lot will depend on the jump now. Nick the Brief rises just in front of Desert Orchid. Kildemo on the stand side. But Desert Orchid, he's fighting back. He's fighting back on the far side, and he gets his head in front again. And Desert Orchid raises the roof. Desert Orchid, gamely, bravely getting back in front.
As it invariably does, the 2001 King George VI Chase at Kempton attracted a top-class field. The previous year's running had seen First Gold bolt home by 10 lengths from Florida Pearl, and these two reopposed each other, but this time in appreciably softer conditions. Also in the field was Best Mate, having his first run over 3 miles, and strange as it may seem now, with doubts about his stamina. And that was how Tony McCoy, deputising for the injured Jim Cullity, rode him.
Fence number 15, and it's Florida Pearl from First Goal. Bacchanal, Best Mate, is poised to mount his challenge under Tony McCoy, and then Legal Right and Fidalco, the last in the back straight. Florida Pearl lands 2 lengths ahead of First Goal. Bacchanal driven along. Best Mate appears to be coasting in 4th place, but now the tap is being turned. They've got 3 fences left to jump in the King George, and it's Florida Pearl's second last year, a bridesmaid on so many occasions. Bacchanal challenging. First Goal just appears to be struggling now on the outside as they jump 3 up. First Goal clambered through that. Best Mate in 3rd place is now beginning to move forward, but Florida Pearl still going strongly in front. Florida Pearl got in a bit tight over 2 out. Bacchanal landed 2nd. Best Mate trying to challenge between the pair. They race down towards the final fence. Can Florida Pearl win the King George? He's 2 lengths clear.
Here's Best Mate challenging under Tony McCoy. Florida Pearl sails over the last. Best Mate now got a fight on his hooves on the outside. Florida Pearl, can he hang on today? Best Mate in second, and Florida Pearl will win the King George, and no horse deserves it more.
12 months later, and the first two reopposed. And again, Best Mate was ridden by Tony McCoy. Victory in the Gold Cup had answered any questions about his stamina, and he held off Marlborough by a length and a half. Back to Kempton and back to Desert Orchid. Kempton was Desi's track. This was where he sprang to prominence when he won the first of his 4 King Georges at the never-to-be-seen-again odds of 16-1. And Kempton was where he bowed out in 1991 after a crashing fall in his 6th King George. But it's not a King George that's made the list at number 23, but the 1990 Racing Post Handicap Chase. No level weights for Desi on this occasion, but 12 stone 3 to lump round, and that was 2 stone more than any of his 7 rivals.
They're making their way around towards the final half mile. There's nothing in it between Solid as a Rock, who has the advantage of the inside position, and the favourite Desert Orchid. Desert Orchid, of course, conceding 2 stone and more all round. Quite a task as he comes into the straight for the final time in company with Solid as a Rock, and they're together still. Just 2 to 3 to take at the next first shadow. Desert Orchid has regained the lead. Desert Orchid has gone on once more from Solid as a Rock. A new challenger emerges with Delius over on the inside, and it's Desert Orchid by 4. 5 legs, another spectacular lead by the favourite that one. Delius is now in second, and after these two, Solid as a Rock has shot his bow. Seagram 2, nothing can catch the first 2 now. It is Desert Orchid and Delius, just 1 to take. Richard Dunwoody, Desert Orchid over the last, all right, he took it a bit low, but he's clear of Delius, and then Seagram a long way back in 3rd place at Valley Hainford, and a deafening roar from the crowd. They're clapping outside, the crowd are on their feet, the hats are in the air. It's Desert Orchid defying the weight and completing his hat-trick.
The defending Gold Cup and King George winner had made light of his welter burden, but the following month, a second Gold Cup proved too much when 100-1 shot Norton's Coin scooted in, with Desi, the odds-on favourite, back in 3rd. At 22 is the first of our hurdle races. The late 1970s were dominated by 3 hurdlers: Night Nurse, Monksfield and Sea Pigeon. All 3 were successive champion hurdle winners, and so for 6 years nobody else got a look in. Sea Pigeon and Monksfield also filled the runners-up spot in 4 of those years. In the 1978 champion hurdle, 6-year-old Monksfield took on 7-year-old Night Nurse and the year-older Sea Pigeon in a classic encounter at Cheltenham.
As they come down to the 3rd last now, and they're going a very fast pace now, and it's Monksfield and Night Nurse together. Sea Pigeon getting closer to them, and over that one, Night Nurse on the inside, Monksfield on the far side. Sea Pigeon, then comes Master Monday not far behind them. Niall Madden, then they're coming down to the 2nd last now, and it's Monksfield, Night Nurse, Master Monday and Sea Pigeon, these 4 ahead of Dramatist. And over the last, Night Nurse landed just in the lead on the near side, over the 2nd last rather, and now Monksfield takes it up, and it's little Monksfield from his old rival Night Nurse and Sea Pigeon coming there with a great run on the stand side. It's Monksfield from Sea Pigeon now as they come to the last in the champion hurdle. Monksfield for Ireland, Sea Pigeon for England. Monksfield on the far side, Sea Pigeon on the near side. Monksfield lands in the lead from Sea Pigeon, then Master Monday and Night Nurse, and as they race into the closing stages, it's Monksfield from Sea Pigeon, and Monksfield is holding Sea Pigeon, and last year's second is going to win it this year. Monksfield striding up to the line to win the champion hurdle. Monksfield wins it from Sea Pigeon second, Night Nurse is 3rd, and Pigeon.
The Melling Chase at Aintree rightly deserves a place in our top 25 because it's almost guaranteed to be an exciting race. Queen Mother Champion Chase winners regularly go for the double at Liverpool, but the additional half mile and close proximity of the 2 races often reverses the form. Viking Flagship, though, was the sort of horse you could set your watch by. 4 years on the trot, he turned up for both races, and every time he was never out of the frame.
About Viking Flagship, he is a lovely horse, and
in 1995, he came to Aintree, having successfully defended his 2-mile crown at Cheltenham 3 weeks previously. Yet favourite for the race was Martha's Son, who had bypassed Cheltenham and had yet to be beaten over fences. These two had also met in the Victor Chandler Chase at Ascot back in January, where Martha's Son had beaten Viking Flagship by 28 lengths. Another runner, Deep Sensation, the former Champion Chase winner, had finished runner-up to Viking Flagship at Cheltenham and had also been beaten by Martha's Son that season.
And a slight nod there by the favourite. Martha's Son, he lost a little bit of ground in the process, and it's Southold from Viking Flagship, still cruising in behind him is Deep Sensation. Martha's Son coming back into contention on the near side as they come down now towards the third last. Southold ended in the lead from Viking Flagship, Martha's Son, Deep Sensation, and then Nakia. Coming down to the final ditch now, Southold the leader from Viking Flagship and Martha's Son at the last ditch. And it's Southold and Martha's Son with between horses. Viking Flagship, Deep Sensation making ground over on the far side. Viking Flagship takes a fractional lead, but here comes Martha's Son on the near side. Four of them in contention at the final fence. Martha's Son takes a fractional advantage. It's just how they jump the last. Martha's Son lands in the lead from Viking Flagship. Deep Sensation getting up over on the far side. Deep Sensation and Martha's Son and Viking Flagship as they come to the line. It's a photo finish between Viking Flagship and Deep Sensation. A photo between Viking Flagship.
What a fantastic race. 4 in with a chance at the last and 3 slugging it out all the way to the line, with Viking Flagship just getting the nod. We stay at Aintree for our next race at number 20 and a return to the golden age of hurdlers, this time for the 1977 Templegate Hurdle, featuring Monksfield and Night Nurse. In 1977, Night Nurse was almost unbeatable over hurdles. A dual winner of the Champion Hurdle, he was the pride of Yorkshire, where he was trained by Peter Easterby. Monksfield, or Monkey as he was known, was the hero of Ireland, and although only a year out of novice class, had finished runner-up to Night Nurse at Cheltenham. Here at Aintree, Monkey received £6 from the champion. Bravery far beyond the measure of most horses was what distinguished these two exceptional champions.
And it's Night Nurse from Peterhoff and Monksfield being pulled out to challenge in between Peterhoff and Night Nurse as they jump the third last. Night Nurse made a mistake there, and a bad one by the champion. It's Night Nurse from Monksfield now. Little Monksfield with a fractional advantage as they come to the second last. It's Monksfield and Desi Hughes and Night Nurse on the far side, and Night Nurse wasn't too clever at that one either. And it's Monksfield now from Night Nurse, and Night Nurse under pressure. And is this going to be Monksfield getting his vengeance? And it's Monksfield on the near side, Night Nurse on the far side. And it's Monksfield on the near side, Night Nurse on the far side. These two fighting it out. Night Nurse is fighting his way back on the far side. Monksfield is battling on the near side. It's Monksfield from Night Nurse as they race to the line. Monksfield is just holding Night Nurse, but Night Nurse is fighting his way back. And as they come to the line, it's a photo finish. It's a photo between Night Nurse and Monksfield. I wouldn't like to call that one.
To literally go over the line, you couldn't split them after 2 miles, 5 furlongs. Two of the greatest hurdlers of all time. That was probably one of the best hurdle races ever witnessed anywhere. And it just got one paragraph the next day because unfortunately an hour later Red Rum won his third Grand National.
It was a dead heat, and fitting that they couldn't be separated after such a titanic struggle. Night Nurse was never the same force over hurdles, but contrary to the opinion of many, went on to become a top-class chaser. As for Monksfield, we've already seen him win the following year's Champion Hurdle, and we'll see another of his epic encounters shortly. At the beginning of 2004, the Racing Post ran a poll to find out the nation's favourite horse, and the winner was the one known simply as himself, Arkle. The horse for whom a system was introduced whereby 2 handicaps would be published, one if he was running and one if he wasn't. A winner of 22 of his 26 races over fences, and such were Arkle's weight-defying performances that an Arkle defeat was more memorable than many of his victories. In the 1964-65 season, he'd been beaten when carrying a crippling 12 stone 10 pounds in the Massey Ferguson at Cheltenham, and later that season looked vulnerable in the race voted 19th in our list, the Whitbread, run here at Sandown. On that occasion, he was asked to carry 12 stone 7 pounds and concede between 2.5 and 3 stones to his 6 rivals. Despite such a burden, Arkle still started odds on, but then he always did.
But Arkle has turned on the speed again and put just about a length and a half between them, but Brayshaw's by no means beaten. He's coming up there again on the outside. Arkle and Brayshaw coming into the third last fence now. Arkle over and only just clear of Brayshaw. There's nothing between the two, but there's a lot of weight to give away. And jockey has a quick look over his shoulder to see where the others are. As they come into the second last fence now, it's Arkle from Brayshaw with Willow King in third place. Over the second last, it's Arkle from Brayshaw. Willow King jumps third, followed by Rough Tweed. Up the hill now, one fence to go, and Arkle has put about 3 lengths between himself and Brayshaw as they come to the last fence. Arkle coming into the last fence now, and a great jump over it, followed by Brayshaw. And this is a real champion we're seeing here now. He's galloping on strongly with 150 yards to go. It's Arkle going away from Brayshaw in second place, Willow King third, and Rough Tweed fourth, coming up to the line, and it's Arkle the winner. Brayshaw second.
To this day, Arkle is still the only horse to win the Whitbread and the Gold Cup in the same season. I did mention that we'd see Monksfield again, and his battles against Sea Pigeon were as epic as his encounters against Night Nurse. The two had fought tooth and nail up the Cheltenham Hill in 1979, when Sea Pigeon, having looked all over the winner, was out-battled by Monksfield. Although Sea Pigeon stayed 2¼ miles on the flat, 2 miles 200 yards up that Cheltenham Hill had proved beyond him on 3 previous occasions. But in 1980, the champion hurdle was shortened by 200 yards, and that would be crucial.
Monksfield, Bird's Nest, Connaught, Ranger, Paiute losing ground, Pollardstown coming there, Sea Pigeon only just in behind the leaders, and it's Monksfield in the lead now from Pollardstown, Sea Pigeon just in behind them, Bird's Nest and Connaught Ranger very close, coming to the second last flight now in the champion hurdle, and it's Monksfield in the lead from Bird's Nest, Pollardstown.
Monksfield was a street fighter who responded to the strongest of urgings. Sea Pigeon, on the other hand, needed everything to go his way and had to be covered up and produced late.
Round in the home turn now in the champion hurdle, and it's Monksfield in the lead from Bird's Nest and Sea Pigeon. Monksfield, Sea Pigeon and Bird's Nest are the 3 principals as they come to the last. It's Monksfield who's going to touch down just in the lead from Sea Pigeon. Monksfield and Sea Pigeon, it's a repeat of last year. The same two fighting it out. Sea Pigeon coming there on the near side, and Sea Pigeon's going to avenge that defeat of last year. He's striding up to the line, the veteran 10-year-old. He's won it at last. Sea Pigeon wins the champion hurdle. Monksfield is beaten for the first time in 3 years. Bird's Nest is third.
Sea Pigeon returned to Cheltenham the following year and, ridden with a complete disdain for the opposition by John Frankham, defended his crown in great style. Although never asked to concede as much weight to his opponents as Arkle was, Desert Orchid did produce many weight-defying performances, and perhaps none greater than in the 1989 Victor Chandler Handicap chase at Ascot.
On the inside of Panto Prince, Vodkatini third, Desi a fantastic jump, but Panto Prince very smooth as well, right up beside him.
On a right-handed track, Desi was almost invincible, and in 1989 was enjoying his best ever season at the age of 10. He hadn't been beaten since the champion chase of the previous year, and in the Victor Chandler was fancied to concede over 1.5 stones to his principal rivals Panto Prince and Vodkatini. After all, he'd already put these two very firmly in their place that season.
Very little between the 3 now as they turn for home with 2 fences left to jump. Panto Prince on the inside, Desert Orchid in between him and Long Engagement towards the right of the picture. Panto Prince coming to the second last with the advantage from Desert Orchid, 22 pound between them. Panto lands in the lead from Desi, who's challenging again, coming down to the final fence now. Panto Prince on the far side, Desert Orchid on the near side, challenging again as they come towards the last. Panto Prince from Desert Orchid, there's very little between them now as they come to the final fence in the Victor Chandler. Panto Prince on the far side, Desert Orchid hands in the lead. Desert Orchid on the near side, Panto Prince on the far side. Here's where the 22 pounds is going to tell. Panto Prince on the far side, Desert Orchid fighting back though. Desi's fighting back like a tiger as he comes to the line. It's a photo. Desi's won it. He's won it. Desert Orchid.
No wonder Desi was everybody's favourite. 3 times you would have thought he was beaten, and each time he fought back. And perhaps that's what endeared him to us. There was always that touch of vulnerability about Desert Orchid. At 16, we have one of the very best Queen Mother champion chases, featuring the 1991 champion Katabatic, the 92 champion Remittance Man, and the defending champion Deep Sensation. 2.5 weeks prior to Cheltenham, Remittance Man had returned to the track after a 14-month layoff and easily accounted for Deep Sensation and Wonder Man at Kempton. In 15 races over fences, he'd been beaten only once, and that was when tried over 3 miles in the King George at Kempton. On all lines of form, he was the horse to beat at Cheltenham, and narrowly started favourite ahead of his stablemate, Travado. Third favourite was Viking Flagship, the youngest horse in the race, and tackling the Cheltenham fences for the very first time.
Spacefair, the leader from Viking Flagship, travelling well just towards his outside. Right over on the outside is Travado, with Remittance Man upsides him. And Remittance Man a faller there. The Remittance Man has gone at that one. He's left Travado in the lead. Travado from Viking Flagship over on the far right between horses is Deep Sensation, travelling well. As they come down to the second last, Travado lands in the lead from Viking Flagship and Deep Sensation. Then behind them come Wonder Man. They're racing round the home turn now, and as they do so, Deep Sensation travelling very smoothly in the centre. Over on the far side, Viking Flagship. On the near side, it's Travado. Travado on the near side. On the far side, Viking Flagship between horses. Deep Sensation, a previous winner, over the last, and Travado on the near side, and Deep Sensation and Viking Flagship on the far side. It's Travado on the near side, Deep Sensation in the centre, Viking Flagship over on the far side. It's anybody's race as they race to the line. Viking Flagship over on the far side has taken a fractional advantage. Viking Flagship has just won it from Travado.
What a battler Viking Flagship was, and he returned the following year to beat Deep Sensation by 5 lengths. Sadly, Remittance Man just wasn't the horse of old. He ran twice more, getting well beaten at Aintree and at Sandown. Foinaven is the star of our next race, the 1967 Grand National. Originally, he was owned by the Duchess of Westminster and, like Arkle, named after a Scottish mountain. But that's where the similarity ends. Foinaven was such a poor jumper that he didn't stay long with the Duchess and came to England to be trained by John Kempton. Kempton was also a jockey, and because he couldn't do the national weight of 10 stone, he rode at Worcester instead, asking a relative unknown, John Buckingham, to ride Foinaven. So unfancied was the horse that even his owners didn't bother to go to Aintree, preferring to watch the race on television at home. What they saw was quite extraordinary.
17 is Castle Falls. Now it's Beeches again, the most notorious fence on the course. But this year they take it like a dream. The nightmare is to follow at jump 23. Castle Falls is leading when a loose horse refuses the jump and cuts right across the field. All the leading horses are embroiled in a complete shambles. Some of the jockeys have to ride back before taking the jump again. But one of them was able to avoid the chaos and found himself incredibly in the lead. John Buckingham on the 100-to-1 outsider, Foinaven.
100-to-1 shot Foinaven had been 30 lengths behind the leaders when Popham Down caused all the carnage at the 23rd, and he was the only horse to clear the fence at the first time of asking. Although 17 horses remounted, Foinaven was long gone, and barring a fall, destined for national glory. It was a national tale that captured the imagination of the public, and ever since has inspired once-a-year bettors to back long shots in the belief that history can repeat itself. Jockey John Buckingham was propelled from obscurity to centre stage, quite literally. The following evening, he was on Sunday night at the Palladium.
He takes it like a veteran. Behind him, Greek Scholar, Packed Home, Red Alligator and Honey N, the favourite. But in spite of Josh Gifford's superlative challenge on the favourite, Foinaven holds him off to win by 15 lengths.
That Aintree meeting was also significant for another race that took place the day before. The Cellar had produced a dead heat, and one of those horses involved went on to become an even bigger national legend. He was called Red Rum. Over the years, there have been 4 triple winners of Cheltenham's Champion Hurdle, but no horse has won it 4 times. Isterbracht would almost certainly have done so had it not been for the 2001 foot and mouth outbreak that caused Cheltenham's abandonment. Winning 3 Champion Hurdles seemed most unlikely when Isterbracht first started racing. Despite being a 3-parts brother to the Derby winner Secreto and having the name meaning quick as lightning in Arabic, Isterbracht had a touch of the slows, and he was tricky to train. The late John Durkan initially took charge of his hurdling career and recommended Aidan O'Brien to be his successor. Isterbracht soon became a Cheltenham banker and was the first to complete the Sun Alliance Champion Hurdle double. His 3rd Champion Hurdle win, and the race voted 14th in our poll, was won in a record time.
3 out, at which it was Caterino just from Blue Royal. Isterbracht on the inside, then Mr. Percy, All La Loire coming out well behind them. Ashley Park still staying on, down towards the second last flight. Blue Royal takes over from Caterino. The Henderson horses 1 and 2, but they're queuing up to mount challenges. Isterbracht on the inside goes 3rd. Then All La Loire, Stage Affair running on. Behind these then Dato Star from Mr. Percy, Blue Royal, but Isterbracht quickens up smartly on the inside and is poised to challenge. All La Loire back in 3rd, then Caterino and Stage Affair. Here comes Isterbracht on the inside of Blue Royal. Ashley Park running on the outside of All La Loire, but Isterbracht strikes the front with just his favourite hill to climb. Blue Royal 2nd, then Ashley Park and All La Loire, and Isterbracht's going on to win his 3rd Smurfit Champion Hurdle. 4 festival wins running for Isterbracht in the champion, a champion of champions. All La Loire and Blue Royal, it was tight.
It's fair to say that Isterbracht didn't face the quality of opposition that his counterparts had in the late 70s. Timeform rated him the equal of Monksfield, but £2 below Night Nurse. That 4th Champion Hurdle would have made all the difference. And when he did return to Cheltenham in 2002 for the 4th attempt, he was pulled up before the 3rd hurdle. Perhaps it's appropriate that the 13th race in our list should involve the unluckiest loser in racing. In 1956, Devon Loch conspired to create one of the great mysteries of sport. And if the nature of his losing wasn't newsworthy enough, then there was the fact that he was owned by Her Majesty the Queen Mother. That ensured front-page headlines. Who better to tell us the story of the race than Devon Loch's jockey, Dick Francis?
I was thrilled all the time at the way my horse was going. I was in about the first half dozen all the time. Jumped Beeches, which was quite a drop there, jumped it brilliantly. You aim for the middle towards the inside of the next fence. And then the next fence is the canal turn. Go down towards it in the middle of the course, and just as you're about to jump, you aim your horse's head at the inside corner and you jump the fence on the turn. You get quite a lot of ground if you're doing that. Well, Armorial went out on the 2nd circuit, at least 12 or 15 lengths in front, and seemed to be going very strongly. But most of us jockeys do know your opposition, and Armorial had never had the name of being a great stayer. 3 miles, he started coming back. I could see the gap closing quickly. At this time, Eagle Lodge had come to join me in 2nd and 3rd place. And going into the fence after the canal turn, where Armorial fell, he fell and didn't interfere with us, and we went on then, and I let Eagle Lodge just take the lead, rather, until we came onto the race course, by which time ESB had come to join us as well. After the last, he went away very freshly. Then suddenly, just as we were 2 or 3 strides away from the water jump, the horse pricked his ears, but in that split second we were down on the ground.
Only 50 yards from the winning post, and ESB goes on to win. The collapse of Devon Loch in the dramatic 1956 Grand National is the biggest mystery in racing. There have been many theories, but no proof. Now, years later, Dick Francis gives his explanation.
Some people have advanced the theory that Devon Loch made an effort to jump the water jump, although it was on the inside course. He was far too intelligent a horse to make a mistake like that. In these pictures it can be seen that his ears are pricked, which is most unusual for a racehorse galloping from the last fence to the winning post. And as he pricked his ears, that's when the cheering suddenly hit him. It was this amount of cheering that caused Devonlock to lose the National, and having looked at it a number of times and gone into it from all quarters, I have arrived at the decision that it must have been this.
Crowd noise seems the most likely cause for Devonlock's demise. There hadn't been a royal win in the National since Ambush won in 1900, and the 250,000 people who were at Aintree that day would have been cheering for the royal victory. The Queen Mother was wonderfully philosophical afterwards. Well, that's racing, she's purported to have said. And as for Dick Francis, he was approached by a literary agent to write an autobiography, and so started his immensely successful writing career. A defending champion, 2 future champions, and they weren't even favourite for the race. At number 12 in our list is the 1977 Champion Hurdle, a race that in the opinion of many attracted one of the finest fields. The defending champion was Night Nurse, who in the 1975-76 season had completed an unprecedented Grand Slam of the Irish Sweeps Hurdle and the English, Scottish and Welsh Champion Hurdles.
From Bird's Nest, racing up towards the line, and Bird's Nest beginning to get up on the far side, but Night Nurse is holding him, and as they come to the line, Night Nurse is going to win it. At the line, Night Nurse is the winner, Bird's Nest is second.
His mid-season 1977 form had been disappointing. 2 consecutive defeats, one of them by 15 lengths at the hands of the Champion Hurdle favourite Bird's Nest, was the reason that he was freely available at 15-2 for the champion.
As they come up towards this next flight from Bird's Nest over the 6, it was Night Nurse from Bird's Nest and Dramatist.
The 2 future champions were Monksfield and Sea Pigeon. Monksfield was a year out of novice class and had finished second in the previous year's Triumph Hurdle. Sea Pigeon was an exceptional dual-purpose horse, capable of winning a Chester Cup after a 2.5 season absence from the flat, with the Irish Sweeps Hurdle winner Master Monday and the horse that had beaten him at Kempton, Dramatist, also taking part. This was an exceptional field of runners.
Third from home now. Sea Pigeon making good ground towards the outside, and as they jump it, it's Beacon Light now from Night Nurse and Bird's Nest, and then comes Master Monday making good progress, but Night Nurse fighting his way back on the inside now. Paddy Broderick and Night Nurse as they come towards the second last now, and it's Night Nurse on the inside. Over on the far side is Dramatist with Bird's Nest, and as they level up now for home, it's Night Nurse on the inside from Dramatist, and Monksfield coming there strongly too, and it's Night Nurse from Monksfield and Dramatist. Bird's Nest over on the far side, Night Nurse and Dramatist together, and Monksfield and Sea Pigeon on the near side, and it was Night Nurse there from Monksfield and Dramatist as they race into the closing stages. It's Night Nurse from Monksfield, these 2 now, Night Nurse for England and Monksfield for Ireland as they race up to the line, and Night Nurse is going to win it again. Night Nurse wins the Champion Hurdle from Monksfield in second. Dramatist is third and Sea Pigeon 4. 5 is Bird's Nest and 6 Beacon Light and 7 is Master Monday, 8 Flying Diplomat.
Prior to the race, Paddy Broderick, Night Nurse's regular partner, had always said that he would win, despite concerns about the heavy going and absence from a racecourse since Boxing Day. By the end of the following season, many thought Night Nurse should retire, as age caught up with those flying feet. But Peter Easterby revitalised one of racing's most popular horses, and he embarked on a jumping career that carried him to favouritism for a Gold Cup. He ran his last race in the 1982 King George VI Chase. There's no number 11 on our list because at number 10 we have a tie, and the 2 races concerned are separated by almost 20 years. We'll start with the most recent, and it's another epic duel to the line over the Cheltenham fences, the 2000 Queen Mother Champion Chase. Favourite for the race was the Paul Nicholls-trained Flagship Uberales, a warm order at 11-10, whose only defeat since winning the previous year's Arkle had been at Ascot, when he went down narrowly in the Victor Chandler Chase. On 3 occasions that season, Flagship Uberales had had the measure of another runner, Direct Route, who had been third in the previous year's Champion Chase. Second on that occasion was Edredon Bleu, whose form prior to Cheltenham had been indifferent. He'd clashed with Flagship Uberales in the Tingle Creek and come out 7 lengths worse. What was in his favour, though, was the livelier ground at Cheltenham and AP McCoy in the saddle.
As they fly to fence number 2, Edredon Bleu lands in front, and again we're expecting a very fast time here. Flagship Uberalis in third, Celibate in fourth as they take this open ditch, and Edredon Bleu lands over fluidly by about a half length. A big open ditch. This is 4 out there coming to Edredon Bleu. Great job. Oh, Nordon sprints, a crashing tumble. Space Trucker was badly interfered with. Edredon Bleu has led all the way so far, but both Flagship Uberalis on the outside and Direct Route on the inside are waiting to pounce. Here's 3 out, Edredon Bleu over first by 2 lengths still. Flagship Uberalis is now pushed along in second. Direct Route on the inside under Norman Williamson looking for a double. The Outback Way is running on. Here's the second last. Edredon Bleu moving out. Flagship Uberalis was down on his nose there in second place, but still in with a shout. Direct Route now delivering a run back in third as they make the final turn with 1 fence to jump and then the hill. Edredon Bleu will not surrender the lead lightly. Here coming at him is Direct Route in the orange jacket, the favourite on the far side, Flagship Uberalis. The final fence, 3 in a line. Edredon Bleu just in front from Direct Route. Flagship Uberalis on the far side. Edredon Bleu challenged all the way up the hill by Direct Route. Direct Route putting his nose in front. Edredon Bleu fights back on the near side. The bombing finish. Very tight. Direct Route far side. On the near side, Edredon Bleu.
2 years later, Flagship Uberalis got his revenge in the Champion, and by the 2003-04 season, 11-year-old Edredon Bleu looked a more likely candidate for retirement than the winner's enclosure. How wrong we were. He went through the season unbeaten and won a magnificent King George VI chase, showing just how tough and versatile he is.
Edredon Bleu, who needs best mate when you've got Edredon Bleu and he wins the King George?
So, a fairy tale outcome to the 1981 Grand National.
The other race at 10th equal is the most emotional race in our top 25, and I'm surprised it's not higher in the list. The Grand National of 1981, won by Aldeniti. The story of Bob Champion's battle with cancer and the goal he set himself of returning to the saddle to ride Aldeniti, once regarded as a hopeless cripple himself, became the subject of Hollywood treatment with the film Champions. It was a story that couldn't have been scripted better. Aldeniti had a history of going lame, and in 1979, when he broke down again, it looked hopeless. That same year, Bob Champion was diagnosed with cancer and told that unless he underwent immediate chemotherapy treatment, he had no more than 8 months to live. Against all the odds, Champion returned to the saddle, but that was only part of the battle.
The treatment affected his hands and feet. He didn't have any feeling in his hands and feet. If you're a jump jockey, you need to slip reins, and when you're landing over fences, you need to put your feet out to stop yourself falling off. So there were dramas. He did fall off a couple of times. He dropped his whip. Took him an age to get back into the rhythm. And by the time he did, some of Josh Gifford's owners were whinging, to put it mildly. Some of them wanted other jockeys. And Josh, bless him, said, if you don't want Bob, you take your horse somewhere else. He was truly heroic, Josh, to Bob at a time when he needed it most. He turned the corner. He had a double one day at Ascot in December, 4 months before the Grand National.
Those 2 winners at Ascot in December turned the tide, and then in February, at the same track, Champion and Aldeniti were reunited, and the national dream became more than just a seemingly hopeless cause.
There was a man who'd recovered quite remarkably from testicular cancer. The horse had been a cripple for 2 years, and they got together, and Josh Gifford, a magnificent training performance to get the horse there on the day. And it was one of those stories. It was a fairy tale story. It still had to happen, and it did happen.
There's Aldeniti, one of the 3 class horses in the race, and what a fairy tale this would be if Bob Champion could bring him home. But the danger here is going to be that he pulls hard and he's very bold.
Provided he didn't break down, provided he didn't fall, he was going to be in the first 4. And blow me, he nearly did go at the first. He overjumped, landed right on his nose. Bob picked him up, and away they went.
And they're almost at the first now, and Pacify, one of the leaders, just about the first to rise. No fallers amongst the leading group.
Bob wasn't the greatest jump jockey. He had a wonderful gift of making horses jump. He was a very aggressive jump jockey.
On the
outside, going well is Aldeniti as we rejoin John Hammer.
And Carrow Boy Felwell in the lead. Drumrowan went at Valentine's.
He was fearless right to the end. He loved jumping horses in novice chases. He said he was told to hold up the horse till the later stage of the race, and he was in front at the 9th. And you could hear this bollocking he was going to get from Josh all the way around. And his view about horses was they jumped and they stayed and let them run. And he seized the race by the throat, and he had in the horse he had the perfect accomplice.
And they're running down now towards the chair. And as they do so, it's Aldeniti over on the far side from Zongoliero. Rubstick and Sebastian are behind them, Kylo Glady. Royal Stewart right up with them on the near side. Over the chair, Aldeniti lands in the lead. From Royal Stewart, Sebastian behind Sebastian is Zongoliero.
Going to the 18th, Aldeniti. Rubstick, Royal Stewart, Pacify, Sebastian, Zongoliero, Royal Mail.
In the end, they were both very tired, but he couldn't believe it. Nobody could believe it. He'd been in hospital. I used to go and visit him in hospital, and he'd be sick, and he'd be depressed. He lost a lot of weight, he lost all his hair. On more than one occasion, he was going to finish it. He was so depressed.
As the leaders run down to Beechers for the second time, with Bob Champion leading the field on Aldeniti. At Beechers, Aldeniti over, Pacify's a faller there, Rubstick's over.
And one day, I'll never forget, he told me he'd been down to the children's ward, where none of those children were going to survive. They knew they weren't going to survive. And it gave him a kick in the pants. He thought, well, you know, I've got a chance, they haven't. And that helped him face up to the problems.
Aldeniti being pressed still by Royal Mail. Aldeniti and Bob Champion land in the lead. Royal Mail made a bad mistake, went through it. Senator McLacurry jumped it third. Spartan Missiles now moving into fourth. Then comes 3-1. Then Royal Exile. They're coming to the final fence now in the National. And it's Aldeniti and Bob Champion in the lead. Aldeniti jumps it 2 lengths clear of Royal Mail. Spartan Missile jumps it third and is finishing strongly. Then comes Senator McLacurry and 3-1. It's Aldeniti now being pressed by Royal Mail. And Spartan Missile is still finishing strongly. It's Aldeniti though as they come to the elbow. They've got over a furlong to run. And it's Aldeniti in the lead but being pressed now by Spartan Missile. It's Aldeniti from Spartan Missile and here comes John Thorne. 54-year-old John Thorne putting in a storming finish. It's Aldeniti from Spartan Missile. Aldeniti is going to win it at the line. Aldeniti wins the National. Spartan Missile is second. Royal Mail.
It was a race that transcended sport. It was all human life was there.
I just remember everybody being in tears. Bob was about the coolest person there on the day.
Oh, fantastic. Can't believe it. The governor's done all the work. Keep getting him back here.
You said he'd win the National a long time ago.
I said I'd win the National on him. I never believed it.
Whenever I watch that race, I still think that John Thorne and Spartan Missile are going to collar Aldeniti on the run-in. That they didn't ensured a story that magnifies the qualities of resilience, belief, hope and inspiration, all crucial in sport, but even more so in the battle for life itself. At number 9, we cross the water, and it's not the Irish Sea, but the English Channel for the Grand Steeplechase de Paris, run at Auteuil in 1962. At the time, this race was worth 3 times as much as the Gold Cup, which Mandarin had won that year.
Mandarin up and over, Olympia over second, John O'Groats over third.
Mandarin was a class horse who'd also won 2 King Georges and 2 Hennessy Gold Cups.
25 yards to run for Mandarin and John O'Groats making ground into second place. Taxiderm is making ground fast too. 15 yards to the line and it's Mandarin the leader.
He wasn't the best of eaters though, and his diet was supplemented by a daily bottle of Mackeson Stout. After his 3rd defeat in the Whitbread, he was compensated on the instruction of Colonel Bill Whitbread with a lifetime promise of 2 daily bottles of Mackeson to be delivered from his local. The course at Auteuil has a variety of obstacles, several of which would have been completely foreign to Mandarin. He was further disadvantaged by the wasting and stomach upset that had befallen Fred Winter. 3 fences in and disaster struck when Mandarin's rubber bit snapped, leaving Winter with no steering or brakes and more than 3 miles still to go. A combination of knee pressing, weight shifting and assistance from his fellow jockeys kept the combination going. The crisis worsened at the 4th last when a change in course direction necessitated a dramatic shift of weight on Winter's part, as a result of which Mandarin broke down, yet still stayed in contention. Mandarin finished lame, but had hung on to win by a head. As to who was the more exhausted, horse or rider, That would have been far too close to call. As the 1984 season drew to a close, Fred Winter was locked in a struggle for the Trainers' Championship with Michael Dickinson. It was one of the many fascinating outcomes to be decided by the season's big finale, the Whitbread Gold Cup. Dickinson was represented by Lettock and Ashley House, who shared favouritism with Fred Winter's Plundering. Other possible outcomes to the race could mean an unprecedented third Whitbread for the 1979 and 81 winner, Diamond Edge, now in his 13th year and trying to give his jockey Bill Smith the best possible final ride. Just as emotional would be victory for Special Cargo. It would mean a 7th Whitbread for his trainer Fulk Walwyn and a royal victory for Her Majesty the Queen Mother. That really would bring the house down. With so many possibilities, it was no surprise that the race was an absolute thriller.
And it's Diamond Edge and Bill Smith in the lead from Plundering in second place. Ashley House is third. Plundering moves up on the outside of Diamond Edge. Lettock getting closer. Ashley House getting closer. 14 Express is not done with. Kudos is staying on. Special Cargo is under pressure. Skegby is trying to get closer. They've still got 3 more fences to jump. And it's Plundering now with up on the outside Lettock. Lettock and Plundering from Ashley House and Diamond Edge. And 14 Express. 3 out and Lettock now. Lettock in the lead for Michael Dickinson. From in second place Plundering, 2 more to jump, but it's Lettock going on from Plundering. Diamond Edge in third place, but he came from this place when he won a couple of years ago. However, Lettock has the advantage from Plundering. 2 out, Lettock, Plundering, Diamond Edge. From Ashley House, who made a mistake. Special Cargo is rallying on the inside. They've got 1 to jump in the Whitbread, and there's nothing to choose between Plundering and Lettock. Very little to choose between the two. Plundering on the near side, Lettock on the far side. At the last, they took it together, landed together, with Diamond Edge racing in between these horses again. It's Plundering, Lettock, Diamond Edge rallying, Special Cargo coming with a run, and Diamond Edge is coming through. Diamond Edge just coming through to Shane Lettock. Special Cargo finishing well, a 3-way photo with the Whitbread. What a fantastic finish, Diamond Edge, Special Cargo and Lettock. These three in a photo, and Kevin Mooney thinks that he's won on Special Cargo, giving a victory salute.
An extraordinary finish, probably the most dramatic witnessed at Sandown, where so often during the run-in the outcome changes beyond recognition. Although Bill Smith had been denied a glorious farewell ride on Diamond Edge, he, as a royal jockey, would have appreciated the emotion of one of National Hunt's most popular victories.